car crashes, defective products, dangerous drugs, injuries, and abuse. Across the state of Alabama, the attorneys, proudly sponsored by the law firm of Hollis, Wright, are here to serve you. Your tough legal questions answered by our experts with the attorneys of Hollis, Wright.
Hello, I'm Art Franklin, your host for the attorneys. I got something I want you to think about. In 2021, there were more than 17,000 dog bite claims on insurance with an average cost per claimant of $49,000. On this show, we're talking about when animals attack. We're going to get to that in a moment, but first we want to remind you that you can get in contact with one of the attorneys at Hollis Wright right now at 1-844-LAW-TALK. They will take your call. No matter what your question is, they'll answer that question for you. It is free. It is also confidential. Let's get over to the attorneys right now. Carter Clay, John Spade, when animals attack. I gave that one statistic there. Didn't realize that there were that many animal bites in Alabama.
Yeah, there's a lot that's going on. It's a big part of our practice at Hollis Wright, and I wanted John in particular to come on the show and talk about this particular topic because he's been out of law school for several years, and I don't know exactly how this happened, but he seems to have a lot of dog bite cases that he's always working on, and he really knows this area of law better than anybody in our practice. And this is a relevant topic to a lot of people out there. Just to kind of lay the foundation for it, we all have seen in the last several years how restaurants and hotels have become very accommodating for people who have dogs or pets coming to the hotels and staying there. It used to be when you and I were younger, Art, I mean, you weren't taking your dog to stay with you in a hotel. I mean, they prohibited pets and animals from being in the hotel, but these places have become a lot more receptive and accommodating to people that have animals. And with that comes more dog bites. Right. We oftentimes see a lot of dog parks popping up where people can take their dogs and have their dogs run freely in these dog parks, but there are other dogs and other people there. So it's a real ripe area to explore, and it's something that we handle quite frequently at our law firm. So John, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me. Happy to be here. I don't know how I kind of got into the dog bite or dog attack niche, but you know, it has developed, and I handle a lot of these types of cases. I do own a dog. I'm not gonna. I do want to preface this show. Every time we've done a show like this, we always get a lot of calls from angry dog owners. I'm not saying that every single dog, every single breed, you know, is dangerous, and that, you know, we're just up here to kind of thumb our nose at dogs, and that's not it at all. But there are. And as you touched upon at the beginning with that fact, a lot of times these incidents are very catastrophic, and we're talking about permanent, you know, life-altering injuries and scarring, whether it be on the hands or legs, or a lot of times, you know, facial and the head. So these are usually attacks that are very serious, that can really, you know, leave somebody permanently injured and disfigured. And so they're an important part of what we do.
Yeah. And certainly you'll see young children sometimes get in the yards of someone else. What do you do? Let's start from the beginning. I'm attacked by a dog. I'm just walking down the street. What's the steps that I should take? What are the steps?
First and foremost is to try to, you know, stop the attack, stop the incident, separate the dog from the person who's being attacked, and you know, of course, call 911, alert the authorities, get a paramedic there as quickly as you can. There can be a lot of blood loss in these types of incidents, and so, you know, once that is you know, secured and medical personnel is on site and that's taken care of, you know, it's documenting things, and we always go back to, we want to make sure that everything is documented. The further you get away from an incident, people's memories start to fade, you start to forget things. So if you have a phone, and nowadays everybody's got their cell phone on them, you know, 24/7, take a photograph of the injuries, of the dog, of the location. If you can take a video, take a video. Of course, all this is secondary to seeking the medical treatment, but try to document, try to get the address. If you're just walking down in your neighborhood, you probably know the street, you probably know the house. If you're somewhere, you know, visiting somebody, try to get the address, try to get the name of the dog owner, and we'll kind of get into this a little bit more in the show, but the dog owner or keeper of the dog is usually kind of the first level of responsibility. And so that person, that identity is very important in handling these cases.
Yeah, and talk a little bit about, this is a unique area of the law in this context, in that a lot of the clients that we represent that are injured, they're injured by strangers, or they're injured by companies that they don't really have a relationship with. But one of the things that I have found in dog bites is a lot of times these dog bites or dog attacks are happening by family members that own the pet, or close friends that own the pet, or perhaps a neighbor in the neighborhood. So oftentimes there's some level of apprehension or reluctance by the victim to make a claim against the dog owner or the person possessing the dog. What would you say to them, I guess, to alleviate those concerns and encourage them to try and get compensation?
Well, and that is a big part of when I first initially will talk to, to a potential client or a new client that contacts our firm is, the claim is against the homeowner's insurance most times. If it happens while you're over at, family, for a holiday or whatever, you're making the claim against the homeowner's insurance for where the owner or the keeper of the dog, where they reside. And so you're not making a claim necessarily trying to make a claim to take money out of your, father-in-law's pocket. You're making a claim against their insurance. Now, if the case does progress to litigation and a lawsuit is filed, your father-in-law would be named as a defendant in the case, but I can tell you most times when these situations do arise and it's family or friends, and I know if it was me, that's why I have insurance. I'm sorry this happened. I wish it never did, but it did, and obviously, you're going through a lot right now. That I have homeowners insurance. Here's the name. Contact them. We'll do whatever we can to help you out. That's why the insurance is there, for accidents that happen, and this is certainly something that falls under that.
Yeah, and the insurance we're talking about is homeowners insurance.
Right.
So people have automobile insurance that protects them if they're in an automobile accident. If you own a home, then you've got homeowners insurance, and you're going to have coverage there. And so if a claim is made against you as the homeowner, you're going to turn that claim over or that lawsuit over to your homeowner's insurance company, and they're then going to step in and they're going to provide you with a lawyer to defend you in that case, and they're going to be responsible to pay for any judgment or settlement that may arise or come about from the incident itself. So it's not as if the homeowner is going to really be out of pocket anything. And so I hope that sort of alleviates some of the concerns that a viewer or a victim out there might have, and calls them to call an attorney and find out what their rights are to try and seek compensation.
And that's why it's important to have an attorney on both sides, though, whether you were the person who was bitten or the person who owned the animal that did the biting. Yep.
Both sides have rights, and those rights need to be protected on either side, and hopefully you'll be able to come to a fair resolution for the person that got bit.
All right, when animals attack. We are just getting started. We have a lot more to get to, and throughout the show you may notice some on the screen, some information, some facts that you'll see. Pay attention to those because we're putting them up there for a reason. It's good information, very useful information for you to have. I want to remind you to also follow Hollis Wright on all the social media channels, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and you can stay in touch all week long. We're going to take a break. We will continue When Animals Attack here on The Attorneys when we come back.
I'm Josh Wright with the law firm of Hollis Wright, a personal injury law firm, and thank you for watching The Attorneys. We hope you, a friend, or a loved one never needs legal counsel for a case. But if you do, the goal of the show is simple: to provide answers and legal counsel when you need it the most. Your call to the show is free and off air. So if you have questions specific to the show or related to other accident or injury topics, call, email, or text us. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, or go to hollis-wright.com and click on the Contact Us button. We know your time is valuable, so thank you for spending it with us and watching The Attorneys.
The Attorneys, proudly sponsored by the law firm of Hollis Wright, are here to serve you.
When we started the show 8 years ago, my hope was we would be able to do what we do best, which is to help people answer real-world legal-related issues they have in their life.
People oftentimes are confronting various legal issues and problems in their lives that range across the gamut of legal practice areas. Bankruptcy, criminal law, family law, just to name a few. And to be able to have a 30-minute platform or format to where we can just cover various legal topics once a week, that's obviously the primary focus of the show.
That we would be able to use the resources of the many lawyers we have at this law firm to create a plan that had a lasting impact that also gave back to the community at the same time. And I think we've done just that with the attorneys.
Did you know when you hire Hollis Wright, you are still in charge of your case? Our attorneys at Hollis Wright are client-centered, allowing you to help us control your case and result. At Hollis Wright, your result matters.
And we want to welcome you back to the attorneys as we are talking about when animals attack. And I want to get back over here to the discussion because there's so much still that we've got to unpack with this. John Spade, Carter Clay as well. What kind of damages can I expect to recover if I am injured by a dog bite?
So we've got compensatory damages and potentially punitive damages. I will say that the punitive damages are much more difficult to recover. You have to show there's some sort of wanton conduct to be able to get to the punitive damages, but that is an item of recoverable damages. The compensatory damages are what I think most viewers would think of out-of-pocket expenses, medical bills, pain and suffering, mental anguish and anxiety. And I find in handling these types of cases, the mental side of things, the physical is always, usually pretty severe. There's scarring, there's disfigurement, but the mental side of these types of incidents really can stick with the client for a long time. And depending on what age they are too, that can have a big impact. A younger child gets attacked or mauled by a dog, they're apprehensive to go around another dog for a very long time. And I've talked with multiple clients who years after, I've handled something for them, they still say, look, John, every time a dog bites, I jump and I'm skittish and I'm scared and concerned. So, the mental side, the physical side, any sort of a permanent injury, lost wage claim, that all falls under that compensatory damages. So you got compensatory and punitive.
I know people that are 40 and 50 years old that are terrified of 15-pound little white fluffy dogs, and you ask them why, and they say because they were bitten as a child.
Yeah.
So I mean, it does stick with you. It does stick with you for a long time. Not everybody, but sometimes it does stick with you, and it's hard for them to overcome that fear and anxiety. Since we've touched upon the damages, I think it's important to kind of dive into and distinguish the location of where the dog attack or dog bite takes place, and also who you are, what sort of class of persons that you are in terms of making a claim. So let's talk a little bit about that. Why is it important? Why is the location of the dog bite or dog attack important?
The location can shift what kind of level of proof you have to be able to provide to attach liability. So if you're at a dog park or some sort of public place and you're bringing a claim against the owner of that property, you have to show that they had notice of that dog's propensities or that dog had bitten somebody before. It's a little bit different when you're a little bit closer to home as far as you're making a claim directly against the owner of the dog or the keeper of the dog. For instance, you're walking down, like we talked about in the first segment, about you're walking down a public roadway and the dog leaves the house or leaves the property and attacks you. You have a legal right to be there. They had control of the dog or should have had control of the dog. They should have restrained the dog or kept the dog on a leash or on an electric fence or physical fence. And so you can have the claim directly against the dog owner for those types of things. So where you are matters. And then there's a couple of different statutes in Alabama, and there's one that protects mailmen, Amazon delivery ever since the pandemic and Amazon pretty much has a stranglehold on everybody right now. People are getting packages dropped off all the time. Those individuals, postal workers, Amazon delivery, whether it's third party or FedEx or whoever it is, they're protected. But then you as just a member of the general public are protected as well. But it does depend on where this attack occurs. Is it inside the home? Is it on the property? Is it right off the property? Was a dog taken somewhere and the attack happens at a public park or somewhere away from their residence or their home? All that stuff plays a part.
Yeah, these statutes have been on the books for a long time. One of the statutes actually talks about somebody delivering milk.
Yes.
So that ought to give you some indication as to how long ago the statute was written. But that there is a statute out there that protects mail carriers, utility workers, power company personnel, people that have an implied permission to be on your property in order to carry out business that would affect your household as well. And so there are protections in place there that would allow those types of workers to get certain damages. But at the end of the day, what's critically important is the type of dog that you're dealing with. Again, we're not here to be critical of people that own Rottweilers and Pit Bulls, but there are obviously dogs out there that inherently are born with some level of vicious propensities, or at least the law has assumed they've got some level of vicious propensities. And if those dogs are involved in the attack or the bite, the owner is assumed or presumed to have notice of those vicious propensities, so they really don't get a get out of jail free card. Whereas other types of dogs, you generally have to show that they had some type of notice that the dog had bitten somebody in the past. But this area of law, John, as you can attest to, can become fairly complicated pretty quickly in terms of the types of claims that you can make and whether you have to show notice by the dog owner in terms of these types of propensities to bite. And so it's important to have a lawyer in these cases.
Oh, absolutely. There's the misnomer, and the term gets thrown around a lot, the one bite rule. The law, that's not actually true because of the dog breed. If it's a known vicious propensity, if it's a pit bull, a Rottweiler, a German Shepherd, you don't get one bite. You don't get one free bite, if you will. And so notice plays a big part of this. The investigation that goes into these cases are a big part of this. That's why it is important to get an attorney involved, because these cases a lot of times are very factual intensive cases, and you've got to be able to develop those facts through competent representation.
And I know we're about to go to a break, but I want to make this distinction because I think it's very important for the viewers to understand is we represent a lot of individuals that are injured by dogs that doesn't involve an attack or being bitten. I've represented individuals in the past that were knocked down by Labrador retrievers, some of the most playful animals out there, that an elderly person was knocked down, sustained a broken femur, and wound up having to have surgery. So it doesn't always have to be packaged in some type of attack or bite. The dog could actually be playful or just running around and cause some type of injury, but if the dog owner is not properly restraining that dog or keeping that dog at their house and they cause an injury, they can be held responsible.
And I know you're just touching on it right there, but I was thinking about that as we were heading into break, at something that we can unpack a little bit more on the other side of the break. And one caveat to what you were saying, there is one breed of dog that really stands out in terms of the attacks that lead to death, and that is pit bulls. And not picking on pit bulls, but the pit bull kills more frequently than any other breed and accounted for 63% of fatal attacks last year alone. So I know we're not picking on any breed, but we do know that that is a breed that has been at least singled out and statistically as one that kills more than others. But take care of your dogs and take care of yourselves whenever you're out, and make sure you keep your dogs on the leash when you're out and about. But we're talking about when animals attack. We're going to unpack some other things about this as we get into our last break, reminding you also to follow us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We'll take a break. We'll continue just after this.
I'm Josh Wright with the law firm of Hollis, Wright. As with any industry, it's important in the legal world to hire an attorney that is knowledgeable and has a track record of success. But with so many attorneys out there and so many different types of cases, how does someone decide the right lawyer to hire? In this week's Legal 4-in-1, we're answering the question, what should I consider in hiring an attorney? In-state versus out-of-state, big firm or little firm, recommendations from friends or family, the internet or TV. With so many choices and so much information, it can be an overwhelming task trying to make the right decision. To complicate things, choosing a lawyer is an important and sometimes life-affecting decision and should not be taken lightly. So how do you select an attorney? First, do your research. Look the firm up on the internet. Learn about the cases they handle and the results they get. Second, find out what clients are saying about the firm. Many websites provide client testimonials or have a star ranking system. Use those to your advantage. And finally, talk with a lawyer from their office and ask them questions. Questions about the volume of cases they handle. Do they return phone calls? Are you just a number or a client that gets the attention you deserve? Please remember, your call, email, or text to the attorneys is free. All of us at Hollis Wright want to help answer your questions on real issues you face. Remember, a competent lawyer will respond to every question you send in. That's our pledge and promise to you. Thanks for watching The Attorneys. We love this state and its great people. People that are worth fighting for in their lowest moments. It's what drives our lawyers to do what we do. We're here right now to fight for you. At Hollis Wright, your result matters.
I want to thank you for sticking with us. Welcome back to the Attorneys. We're talking about when animals attack. And Carter, when we were going to break, we were talking about not just the injury from the dog bite itself, but there are other injuries that a person can sustain from an attack by an animal.
Yeah, and I mentioned a case that I handled several years ago, and in fact, John just recently was involved in a case and got it resolved on behalf of an individual that was injured, not from a dog bite itself. But John, why don't you just talk a little bit about that case?
Yeah, so you hear, dog bite, dog attack, and you think, dog latching down on a leg or a body part, but a lot of times it can happen with somebody getting run over or getting run into by dogs or two dogs colliding. I know Carter mentioned before about a golden or a Labrador Retriever and their propensity to jump. It all comes down to notice in these cases most times. And if you're on notice that your dog runs from the front porch and chases people who are running in your neighborhood, or chases cars, bicyclists, motorcycles, and even though they're not biting the person or biting the bicyclist, that can be a case, and that can give rise to liability, just running and toppling somebody over. And you'd be surprised at the damage that a dog that's 50, 60, 70 pounds, that's got a full head of steam, coming off a front porch, and running in the side of you, what kind of damage that can happen. I've had a case that we resolved recently where that was part of the facts of what happened, and our client spent a significant amount of time in the hospital from broken bones in her leg as a result of getting blindsided by a dog coming off of a fence, not being properly restrained.
Yeah, and we've handled cases involving individuals riding motorcycles, getting chased by a dog, and the dog came out and caused an accident involving the motorcycle. Persons get catastrophically injured. So these types of situations do arise that are outside the context of a dog bite or a dog attack.
It's almost like you guys are in my neighborhood. All the loose dogs around. But what if someone is in a situation and a dog does that and they ended up killing my pet? What are my rights? Am I able to sue that person?
Go ahead. We get this question quite a lot, and the viewers are not going to like this answer, and I would be outraged too, but John, why don't you tell them?
And like I said, I have dogs. I've owned dogs my entire life. I think of them as family members. Unfortunately, the law does not see them as family members. They're property.
What?
I know. As much as we love Fluffy and everything, no, they're at the end of the day, they're property. And so now if you incur vet bills, if your dog is attacked and they have to have surgery or, stitched up or whatever, that's something that can be recovered if there's two dogs get into it and one dog ends up killing the other dog and it costs, X amount of dollars to purchase a dog or to buy a replacement. You can't ever replace your dog, but that's something that could be recovered. But the damages we talked about at the beginning of the show, the compensatory, the punitive damages, the mental anguish damages, unfortunately right now in Alabama, that's not something that's recoverable for your dog if they're attacked.
Yeah, so basically you get the fair market value of what it would cost to replace your dog. So like I said, the viewers are not going to like that. I understand. Those people that passed that law, they must not like dogs very much, right?
Yeah.
But at any rate, that's just the way it is. They are viewed as property, and so you can get the fair market value, but unfortunately not much else. And like I said, most people are not very satisfied when we give them that response.
That's right, right. Well, something else we want to deal with, the idea that the dog owner can be criminally charged for the actions of a dog.
Yeah, I'll handle that. So we don't see that happen very often, and really what you're talking about are circumstances where we were kind of, I guess, maybe picking on pit bulls. So let's take Rottweilers or another breed or German Shepherds where maybe you've got a bunch of those types of dogs and they've got a long-standing history, the dogs that you own, of attacking or biting people, but yet you don't put them down. You continue to let them run wild. I mean, it's going to get to a point where the conduct by the dog owner is so reckless and so egregious, and the outcome of somebody getting injured, maimed, or killed is so bad that there may rise to the level of some type of criminal action being taken. But generally speaking, we rarely see that happen in the context of the types of cases that we handle.
Well, but something that has kind of come to light recently in the last 3, 4, 5 years is and this is why it's important to, if you are are attacked by a dog, even if you're not, injured and have to go to the hospital and that sort of stuff, it's important to document these things, to contact the local police, to contact animal control, because just because that dog attacked you and it wasn't, fatal or didn't injure you that time, it could injure somebody in the future. And there are mechanisms and procedures in place to have that dog adjudicated by a judge as being as having dangerous propensities. And so the next time that dog attacks somebody, there's a record of that. And it can ensure that the dog owner has a bond or has insurance for that dog, because now they're on notice that this dog has attacked somebody, and if it attacks somebody else again and it is fatal or they are gravely injured, there'll be an avenue for them to recover.
Yeah, I know we're about to close out the show, but real quickly, be careful about the underground fences. The electric fences, they work great, but they don't provide a physical barrier. Make sure those collars are on and active, because the dog can run right through those fences and can cause problems.
That's good information. If you have other questions that were raised by watching the show, you can still get in contact with an attorney at Hollis Wright at 1-844-LAW-TALK. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you back next week.
Thanks for watching The Attorneys, sponsored by Hollis Wright.